today we're going to do a bit of a retro. I want to kick it off by saying, we had one earlier this week on some of the sockets and the pops. And the idea here is to collect some more feedback on how we're doing with the community, how we're showing up for you all and how the projects are going, and figure out if there are some things that we can do to continue to support the community as we're building on the network. So we had the sockets one earlier this week. I think it went really great. We're going to take those learnings along with the learnings that we have today, compile those into a document so that way we can share it out with you all at some point next week, I think. And I am on my mobile here. Ben, are you in the call?
I sure am. Yeah.
Oh, great. Well, everybody, today Ben is going to facilitate the conversation, doing a little bit of a retro from the last sprint that we've done. Ben, I guess I can just hand it over to you, and we can put the information in the chat for the boards that we're going to use and any documentation that people might need.
Definitely can. Yeah, I'll share my screen so everyone can see that.
Perfect. And Ben, just want to say thank you. I realize it's very late your time, so I appreciate you staying up to facilitate this one.
Yeah, no problem at all. Don't thank me yet, I think, because I might sort of do a Mitch McConnell and freeze up at some point. But it is good to be here. One of the challenges for me is going to be technical, which is I'm sort of trying to share this presentation from the same space as my Google Chrome browser. Basically, I have to do Discord through the browser to be able to sort of share. So I won't be able to follow along in the chat. It will be sort of difficult to flick back and forward between the two. But I hope you'll bear with me as we sort of try to get through that technical challenge. I'm just going to share my screen though. Hopefully, I can get it up and going.
Ben, I'm happy to keep an eye on chat and call out anything that we need to talk through.
I think we're going to be okay now. So let's try and see if this works. Okay. DNA, which is around adaptability, and that's summed up in this sort of concept of faster learning beats better planning. So today is really about sort of trying to bring that value to life. What we're trying to sort of get better through the activity of being really self-aware and open with ourselves about how things have been going, identifying what's working well and perhaps what's working less well, and from that, identifying the things that we should be doing to improve going forward, and sort of socializing those learnings as much as possible, so other people can take that knowledge, not make the mistakes that I and perhaps others have made along the journey, and hopefully through that Pocket gets a little bit better this month and in all these subsequent months. So today, what we're looking for you to do is just share your voice. Tell us what you're sensing and experiencing as part of Pocket, and from that we plan to sort of take that back into a set of tasks, which as Zach said before, we'll share out early next week around action plans and things we're doing to sort of improve on the back of that feedback. So the session today will be interactive. What we're looking for is your voice. Some people feel comfortable to sort of speak up and share their thoughts really confidently through their voice. Others don't feel as confident to be as candid. So we have this mechanism, Mentimeter, which will allow you to sort of share your voice through that, and hopefully we can dive into these things a little bit deeper as we go along. So hopefully, I think we've probably, just looking at the attendees here, used Mentimeter before. All you need to do is go to menti.com, put in that code, and then you'll be able to access and participate with everything as we go along through the session. Alternatively, you can just use the QR code there scanned on your phone. That will take you to the same place. First thing we usually need to do is just check in and make sure that everyone does have access and can participate that way. So if you can just click the little thumbs up down the bottom there once you're in. And once I see that sort of most people, perhaps even some people have accessed the Menti, then we'll just get straight into it basically and start asking ourselves these questions. Still looks like it's only a couple that have joined so far, up to 3, okay. 4. Looks like it's ticking along. I'm going to assume that some people are just comfortable to yell stuff out, so we'll keep on going. But if you have any technical challenges, put them in the chat. Zach or someone else from the team will help you out. So probably thinking, okay, what are we actually talking about here? So we're wanting to do like a retrospective on how POKT's been going recently. And it is sort of not a consistent perspective, I suppose, that we're expecting today. People have a different perspective on POKT. Some people might sort of answer these questions from the perspective of a community member thinking about the POKT project at large. Some of us might be working for POKT, PNF, PNI, different staking providers. It's totally fine to also answer on behalf of your organization. Or perhaps it's just you as an individual. Be quite a long retro if we all listen to all the things that I think I've done. But I think it's important also to sort of reference what's working well for you. And perhaps there's generalized answers and things that we can be doing to take those learnings for the rest of us as well. So regardless of how you want to look at this, all perspectives are valid. I think what's important is that we're able to see how things are going from those different perspectives and then try and turn that into positive action as we go forward. Okay, it's late at night, I'm rambling, so I'm just going to get straight into it. So the first thing that we want to ask and hope that you can sort of share with us is what went well. And when you think of POKT, maybe we're talking about PNF, maybe we're talking about the DAO, maybe we're talking about the broader project. What's gone well in these last few months? I'm actually going to put people on the spot because I think it fills in a bit of the silence and gives people some time to think, maybe gives some inspiration for how to answer that question. So who am I going to pick on?
Hey, Ben, I'm sorry to put you on the spot a little here, but when you say the last couple of months, are we thinking from a specific time, or is there anything that we can share of things that have happened in this time frame can jog people's memories of what had happened?
Yeah, sure. Well, we're actually talking mostly and thinking mostly now in this sort of idea of a cycle, which is a 2-month period. So to set the sort of tone, in the last 2 months, what we did is we got an era budget approved. We started working on a set of keystone projects that hopefully people are starting to become familiar with. We've started to activate different contributions through our main mechanisms of sockets and pops. These are sort of the key things that I think have happened in the last couple of months. So I think generally people might want to reference how those things are going. But of course, people are working for different organizations, staking providers, pushing code, lots of different things. So I'm quite open to what we cover. But yeah, we're sort of talking the last 2 months, but if it's 3 months, 4 months, I think that's probably okay too. Good prompt though, Zach, thank you. I'm going to take a moment to sort of take a look at these responses so I can do an okay job of facilitating. Why don't I put Dermot on the spot though? Dermot, you've always got something to share. What do you think's gone well for POKT or PNF or you individually in the last sort of couple of months?
Yeah, good question. I think we've made a lot of mistakes, no doubt. We've been pushing harder to do more things, be more active, be more open, and I think we've realized at times that our comms aren't as good enough, aren't as transparent, aren't as open. So I guess that's why I go ahead to kind of some of the bad things, but actually really, I guess saying all that is really kind of to kind of get ahead to the things we've done well, which I think is just getting more people doing things that they care about and are passionate about. I think sockets and pops are a great example. I think there's a greater awareness about what we care about, so it feels like we're much more aligned versus before. I think we had a lot of smart people in this community, but we're almost competing with each other at times, or drowning each other out, or definitely competing with each other in terms of the attention we're demanding on each other for these endless debates in the forums and everything else. I think we've been much more productive in the forums, much more productive in our chats, looking to collaborate much better. So yeah, generally feels like, yeah, the takeaway for me, I guess, greater alignment and more people working together.
Nice one. Thank you. I think a few people just looking at this sort of tend to agree with you. A bit more about people working on sort of aligned activity, maybe some clearer direction and milestones set. Also, a few more people contributing to the protocol. I think one thing that's sort of come up here, listed as sort of
Now
a good
recording.
thing, is that inflation was killed, and Rat Pocket is about to be launched. And I think actually some people across the community, if you ask them, was killing inflation through the ARR proposal a good thing. They may disagree with that being a positive. So I'm wondering if the person who shared that can sort of speak up as to why they think that was valuable or something that went well. Nope, maybe not. Okay. Well, I might try a different tact. I think we've got some new people. I know we definitely have within PNF. We've got Ads and we've got Zach that have joined recently. Ads, I might ask you, as sort of somebody new to the project, what do you think's gone well in the last period of time from your observations?
It's kind of hard because I don't have anything to compare it to.
Okay.
But I will say what I have really valued.
Uh-huh.
I was very excited coming into the project about the amount of passion that I see within the community. And it's been wonderful to see that and to see people challenging things and really care deeply about some of the decisions that we make and engaging. And so I think, that for me was something I was very excited about, very much delivered. And I do think, yes, from a marketing standpoint, I know what's coming up because, I'm obviously planning around it. I just think the velocity of stuff that's being worked on actually is really exciting. I think September is going to be a really cool month, and in the volume of stuff that is going to be coming to fruition or at least materially progressing. So those are two things I would see as massive positives.
Great, thank you. I see a couple of other responses coming through, which is great. If somebody sort of shares something and it prompts you, still keep typing it in. We'll try and capture everything. I might put someone else on the spot. Breezy, I'm always sort of really paying attention when you sort of speak up in some of the Telegram channels or the Discord. For a different perspective, what do you think's going well for Pocket right now? Not sure if he's on mute or. I really need to be careful putting people on the spot. Okay.
I'm happy to
yeah,
not to
jump
make
in.
this all PNF sour here, but one of the comments I saw here definitely kind of prompted me, and yeah, it's this sort of comment about feeling like there's a bit more direction across all the Pocket. As someone that has sort of been in the Pocket ecosystem for quite a while now, or community for quite a while now, I do really, and I think this is a pat on the back to Dermot, but I believe also you had a bit of a role in this, Ben, as well, was around at PNF the keystone projects. I do feel a lot more that when we talk about what to focus on as PNF, but I think also really as a broader community, what to focus on, having these kind of goals and then making them kind of these key objectives that can help us decide what to focus on and what projects to work on is really helpful. I do think it helps sort of make sure we're all rowing in the same direction. I think at times, sometimes there's a lot to do and there's a lot of important things to do, and it's easy to make a long list of things that need to be done. But I think it helps us kind of paint the picture of where we're going and then what is more important to be focused on or to be done. So yeah, that's the one for me.
Great. Thank you. Cool. Does anyone else want to share anything around what they think's working well right now? Okay. I think we got a bit of a feel. I'm really keen for us to keep improving. So I think the next question gives us a lot of opportunity to figure out how we can do that. So the question is, what went less well? So when you're thinking about Pocket, when you're thinking about the organizations of maybe PNI or PNF or the DAO, you're thinking about just what it's like as a contributor sort of work for Pocket or as part of the community, what it feels like to be part of Pocket. What are the gaps or misalignments or pain points that sort of you're seeing and experiencing in these last couple of months? And I think it is one of these things where candor is really helpful. I don't like this. I think I and perhaps the broader PNF team have not done a great job at communicating that to people in a way where it truly activates them in a way that sort of allows them to participate in the way that they would like. And I can call out an example of that actually from Shane, who's on the call, who sort of wasn't really clear around the sockets mechanism to the point where it wasn't sort of apparent to him that he could just spin up and get started on a socket if he wanted to, and that PNF weren't sort of gatekeeping that it's a mechanism that's really permissionless and sort of open to anyone who's sort of vouched into the community. So yeah, I think like communicating what we're doing in a way where people sort of understand how to sort of take that and run with it is definitely something that I think went less well than I would sort of like to see. Does anyone else have something that they want to share around sort of what went less well or what could be improved? Be quiet in the Menti too. So just remember, it's totally anonymous in there. You can say anything you want. So prefer you don't troll us, but yeah, being as direct as you feel comfortable to do behind that anonymity, I think is very helpful. Yeah, Shane, I referenced you before, obviously, with that example. Maybe you could share what you think's going less well. You sort of work with people in the community, in PNF. Yeah, what do you think's going less well right now?
I think the some of the initial communication around sockets, as you already mentioned, and I really appreciate how PNF has responded with, trying to make it much more clear on how they operate, and now understanding how they operate, I think is fantastic. And in terms of other areas, I think one of the ones that I'm probably that I probably inner is there's just so much segmentation in conversation. I think the forum sometimes, like the forum kind of brings things together, but the forum isn't actually used often by some of the most, uh, uh, I guess, influential kind of parties. So
Yeah.
like PNI and PNF uses it. They're not always involved in. There's a number of conversations where they're not able to fully get involved with, and so what I find is, it's almost like the forum is like an entire universe, and then in DMs or something like that, I find out that there's either something isn't understood or something. So I have a really hard time knowing, okay, what should I be doing through the forum, or what do I need to be doing with DMs, or in other channels. So it kind of makes then so that's just a challenge. It's just a challenge to really know who's all seeing what, which it's kind of the nature of a decentralized community. This isn't anything that's specific to Pocket, but at least recently, a lot of conversations going on. That's been one of the challenges I've been facing.
Great, thank you. Yeah, I think this communication thing is huge. You can design lots of things and build new process or operations, but unless communications is really tight, the ability for people to access that and use it is a real challenge. And I think Zach, as a new member to the community, has already picked up on some of those challenges around communication. Zach, is there anything you want to add to that?
Not add, but just kind of echo that we're feeling it as well. And so internally working on doing an audit of basically all the channels and seeing if they're serving us still. And I'm not going to commit to anything today, but we feel your pain and we're looking into better ways to do this.
Great. There's an answer here. Bit nervous about putting people on the spot, and I think we will sort of get more comfortable with doing these retros and sort of speaking our minds as we go along. So for the first time, appreciate might feel a little bit uncomfortable, but yeah, someone shared here about the community needs more insight into protocol development. Does the person who sort of shared that feel comfortable to expand on that? We've got Mateo here, who's sort of head of product for the protocol. We've got Jack here, who's working with Mateo and Olshansky on protocol stuff. Whoever shared that, would you feel comfortable to maybe give them more insight into sort of what you're thinking there?
Yeah, that was actually me. So I feel like there's a lot of people in our community, especially in like the Telegram channels, that are, I wouldn't say completely unaware, but they have the potential to be driving a lot of hype. And like in reality, like any crypto Web3 project needs that hype for any new community members to come in, new builders to come in. And I realize right now it's like a hard time for that. We're in like a bad situation in a bear market sort of thing. So, but I feel like if we were able to have like we used to have the devlogs, or I know if anyone here is like familiar with the Lava project, their like community devlog things are absolutely amazing. They're like their community devrel person, or I'm not too sure, but what their role is, but he does an amazing job at just like getting the community engaged. And I feel like we really need something like that for POKT, so that we can try and bring new builders in and get the excitement about Pocket like up again. Because if we do all of these things like WPOKT and everything else that we have planned, like it's not going to mean anything if it doesn't attract new people and get more eyes on the project. That's really what we need in the end of the day. And I feel like that's going to be hard to do if the people who could drive that hype and drive the getting eyes on the project don't really understand or don't know what's going on. We have a lot of great people working behind the scenes on the forums, putting up proposals, and in the dev team doing stuff. Sometimes that stuff can go straight if you don't have to sit down and research. We can have
this thing where kind of this own goals Pocket has made over the last few years, I think we've had pretty poor branding and design. And also I think one of the key issues has been, while the kind of meme created around this kind of decentralized Infura and people started to realize the importance of RPC, they never truly understood it. And they certainly never truly understood at all how we were doing it, bar the fact that you could potentially earn quite a lot by running nodes. And I think partly that's kind of just focusing on the right messages, but also how we do it. So I think, so sometimes at this thing that's not cutting through to a broader audience, but actually our audience here understands it. But I think that's actually a really good point from Harry, that even within our community, I don't think all of us know the key things they should know about our protocol, why it's special, why it's unique, why it is so much better, and what everything we're doing at V1. So that's a great one. I don't have an answer to that at all. I know DevRel is something we would love to invest into at PNF and the DAO in the future. I think budget doesn't permit it right now, but I think there's probably other ways we can potentially leverage the community to do that by sockets and other kind of mechanisms too. But yeah, I think that's a great one, and it's something I think would love to come out as an action point out of this retro.
So I think an important point here is H5 Law mentioned Lava, and their community doesn't know all the details and super technicals about RPC, similar to Pockets, right? But do a good job is talking about kind of what they're building and kind of the technologies. Like they immediately came out of the gate how they're going to be a Cosmos RPC service, and it was all built around being part of the Cosmos ecosystem. And there was something there to attach Lava to something that they already know or something that they already are familiar with. Take example, RV1 is being built on Hot Stuff, which Hot Stuff. It's where for other with hot stuff, pairing it with this utility layer, which then allows for all sorts of cool protocol stuff to happen that that is separate from the and there's so I'm doing a terrible job explaining it because again I'm not fully aware and get everything that's going on, but there's a lot of cool innovation and it just needs to be expressed. It doesn't necessarily need to have the most detailed technical analysis of it. It just needs to be expressed, right? But I would H5 and there's also and to properly express it a lot of times it helps if you're connecting it to other projects or other technologies or other things that people can kind of attach to where we're not a Cosmos chain, we're a different consensus mechanism, but we're also the stuff that H5 Law is doing with he's making IBC almost like multi-chain, extracting it away from the Cosmos SDK. Like that's all stuff that could be talked about. Pocket actually innovating in new areas of consensus, blockchain, all this stuff, but none of it's being communicated. So, and it's not being presented in a way that brings it to the surface. You wait.
Would it be okay for me to ask a follow-up question?
Sure, just go for it.
Yeah, so Shane, when you say bringing it to the surface, did you have a particular platform or format in mind? And I'll relay something right now. So the team has been working on a couple of research sprints, and we're not ready to kind of fully go wide, but we're already thinking about aggregating the research that the team performed and creating some kinds of documentation around that we can share not only on the forum and with the community, but even probably more widely. So I'm just sort of curious, when you say like you're thinking about not so much the content, but where and how content is shared, do particular platforms seem underutilized to you? Where would you expect some of this content to be? I guess for where you would be like, ah, wonderful! Like I now can go read this Pocket content on research that the engineering team has done and backs up some of the decisions that they've made going forward. Now I understand why they made the decisions that they did. We understand their assumptions, et cetera, et cetera. But like, where would you expect something like that to live? Just curious.
So it's hard because if you expect it to kind of get to the surface by okay, well now it's to the surface. That's not really how it operates. So yes, it needs to be it's good to kind of have it formally put out there, but ultimately it just comes out in conversations. So inside of community chats, inside of the forum, where people that see Pocket and are that's just have any idea the innovation that's happening on the consensus side, or really the cool novel conception of the utility side. that relates to other projects, how we're doing something different from other projects on the consensus layer. No one knows anything about that. And so it's hard to say, like, if you post this here or if you do this one medium, then that brings it to the surface. It's really a mixture of things. You do need to publicly put it out there, but then it's also part of kind of the the community conversation, where anytime V1's mentioned, people start to learn about it. So that's very hard to do, and that that can happen on Twitter, that could happen in stuff like Telegram or Discord. It's harder now because there's less activity in all those channels. So really the time to bring that stuff to the surface is when there's a lot of activity going. Anyways, it's a very hard nut to crack. None of this is a system, but I just know if you were to ask any random person inside of our community what is V1, they would have really no understanding of what the innovation is. They just know it's better, because that's all that's actually talked about. It's just, oh, it's better. But the actual technical innovation is not disclosed.
I feel like, especially with some of the larger things that are going on, and maybe the results of this research sprint sort of thing, it would be a good time to leverage the PR firm or the that sort of thing. Especially in Web3, you see a lot of people, I know myself, I've been hyped for a drop of a white paper from a certain project. So it's these sort of technical things, they can be shared alongside with the kind of things that CryptoCorn makes, or maybe just a easy to digest write up sort of thing, and we could try and get the word out outside of the channels that Shane was suggesting as well. The community obviously is more likely to engage with these things, but ultimately we don't want to just be an echo chamber. We kind of want to reach outside, and I feel like that's something that we've set ourselves up very, very well for in the last few months by the new hires and the PR link with PNF. Now that you have that, we can potentially start leveraging it in ways that we wouldn't have thought to before.
I just maybe chime in. Is that all right, Shane?
Yeah, go for it.
Just to say, I completely agree. I think you make a really, really good point. It is something that is on the radar. I think it will be a lot easier now that we have people like Matteo on the team, and also now that I'm kind of up to speed a bit more than I guess I was when I was first in the doors. We've got a system and a process that we've started to put in place in terms of capturing information from project leads. We've kind of started using that rat pocket for creds. It is going to be used for more technical developments and innovations. So I think there is something that we need to do in terms of creating flows of information whereby people who are working on some of the cool stuff that we're doing can share it with us, proactively reaching out to people who we know are working on cool stuff to get information from them, creating things like talking points. I love, I don't think you actually stated it explicitly like this, but creating talking points about what is cool about V1. This is content we've started to create, and just making sure that as we create it, we also create assets that we can use through the community. Because ultimately, especially when things are quieter, having people like you guys who keep showing up for these calls and who can act as force multipliers for us. I've already actually seen in some of the investor communities that friends of mine are involved in, and that actually my husband's involved in, POKT is starting to be mentioned. It's coming up, and they're referencing things like the governance stuff we've been doing and the rat pocket stuff that we've been doing. Like, the message is reaching out, it is percolating through. And I think you're absolutely right that we need to get more of the technical messaging out there. So anybody who's working on something cool, I guess this is a call to action. I will make available templates that you can kind of share headlines with me, and we will make sure that we create assets that help get that word out. I will also be working with people like Matteo, with people in the community like Harry, to proactively identify where those might be. And if you ever think there's anything else that we could do, like, please continue to raise it, because yeah, I do think it's super important.
Yeah, and you know, what I was kind of mentioning before, also with correlating things that Pocket's doing with other things. One thing that I was been super impressed with Daniel, and talking to him at InfraCon, you know, last year, was you know, how they're building V1 with these different kind of mods, and ultimately with what they're doing, someone could actually take like V1 Pocket and take how they're doing the consensus mechanism with the utility, and they could almost create their own app chain with it. Like, there's so much cool innovation there that, you know, the detailed side doesn't need to go all, you know, you don't need to get all crazy technical, but the cool concepts of what we're building, that we're actually like a Tendermint. Because when he was explaining it to me, I was like, that's almost like a Tendermint. And it was like, yeah, it's kind of similar. It's you know, it's not as plug and play. Tendermint is literally plug and play. That's its whole design. But you can do a lot more unique things with it. So it's kind of like the more advanced, the way that they're structuring the APIs and everything like that. From my understanding, it's a little bit, it'd be like a little more of the advanced version of it. Stuff create all showing unique innovation. Like, and I think that's what people want to see in the space. They just want to see innovation. And so if they're seeing that we're doing cool things with consensus mechanisms, that doesn't have to necessarily correlate directly to RPC. Like, this whole thing that Pocket has to only be an RPC, you know, project, that's, you know, you're missing all the innovation that's happening all around. So yeah, anyways, that you know, so core to how that affects or could be affected in the larger blockchain space, with people taking what we've built and forking it. What could they build with it because of this new innovation that we've brought with this hot you know, hotspot consensus mechanism. So anywho, just thoughts.
It's a nice one though. Yeah, I like that. Not just what we're doing, but what people can do with it is a whole new area that we could think about in terms of communicating. So I think that's cool. I think we're in a good vibe too, around sort of talking about the challenges. Does someone have a different challenge, something that went or is going less well right now that they sort of wanted to reference? Okay, I think we might move on to the next question then, which was really about what should we try next. Yeah, I think we're sort of getting into this. We're taking maybe what's working less well and sort of, yeah, thinking about things that we could do. But what should we try next? And I think it is a really important time. There's a lot of important research going on right now. There's a very major launch in terms of Wrapped Pocket coming up. There's lots of work going on around our economics. We've got a new gateway most likely to launch in the next couple of months. But yeah, what should we be trying next as a community, as a DAO, as a project? Yeah, does anyone want to speak up or share their answer in Menti? As always, I'm going to pick on someone, put them on the spot, whilst we give a chance for people to gather their thoughts and type in their responses. Jack, I'm wondering what you think we should be trying next, given what you've observed in PNF and the changes that are going on there. What do you think's coming up next?
I mean, I'm assuming here that the answer can't be anything that we're already committed to doing. via the keystone. To be honest, what's top of mind for me, based on feedback over the last few weeks, and also I think that being echoed in this call, is it's just communications upgrades across the board. And to me that includes the work that Zach is doing on auditing the channels and seeing whether we can refine where we talk, and how we talk. I think Discord can be leveraged more. This is something I've been talking with Zach about. I think we can get a lot more clarity for people on where different discussions can happen, and also leverage more like all the awesome work that's being done by builders in the community. Like there's a lot going on, and right now this is all being documented in the forum, in like the sockets category, for example. But I don't know that that's necessarily surfacing that work and as clearly as it could be, as an example. So yeah, I think there's a lot of low hanging fruit for us to solve there with just improving comms. And there's different outcomes that we'd be looking to achieve with that as well. So making comms more efficient and effective between core teams and core contributors is one thing. So making it easier for builders to speak with PNF about specific issues, but also speak with each other and just get everyone dynamically kind of coming together and hashing out things. But then there's a few themes here of digesting stuff better and broadcasting better, which I think we can also do more of. So that feels like a theme for me, as just a lot of easy upgrades that we can make for a lot of impact. So I'm going to be chatting with Zach and Ads about both of those things.
Great. And then Blade, I might pick on you because I always love hearing what you have to say. You've got a really important role to play in sort of launching your gateway and bringing that out into the open. But what are you hoping to see across the community as experiments or things that we're doing over the next little period of time? The next question, jump in, Derek.
Yeah, I guess I think if we're all getting better at communicating, giving feedback, working more in the open, I'm really hoping we can work at a much higher cadence and actually have more people feeling like they truly are empowered to share their ideas, suggest ideas for POPs, improvements, take the lead on initiatives. And I think that's kind of really where we want to get to with this whole strategy in terms of harnessing the power of our community, is so we really aren't the blocker. We can hopefully amplify by connecting and coordinating and maybe providing additional capital in certain places, and maybe feedback or whatever else that is. But yeah, this really, I think that's the place I'd love to get to, where everyone does feel truly empowered. So I think that's kind of a good frame. As people want to challenge us to be better and understand how we can help more, is just how do we get out of the way more? What additional help do people need? And then I think we all really know that we're focusing on driving more value towards our supply, demand, capital markets, and governance. So yeah, I think that kind of thesis and strategy is clear. It's just kind of, it's really over to everyone else. I think we all kind of have a clear understanding of what we're doing at PNF. There's a lot of great people taking on the mantle now in the community. So it's just kind of, how do we do more of that better and more quickly, really?
I think that's great. Yeah, I would just add to that. I think yeah, that the speed of execution is something that that definitely I want to see increase. And talking from the PNF side, yeah, it's sort of challenging at times to sort of perhaps be central to so many things, but that's a challenge that we really want to rise to. So I think, yeah, speaking on behalf of myself, maybe for PNF, but also I think for the whole community, what we really want to see is just that speed of execution with things. I think we can go a lot faster if we figure stuff out. So I'm hoping we can do that. Does anyone else have observations or feedback that they want to share? Like, this really is a chance for people to speak up and turn their voice into positive action. Is there any other feedback or observations that feel important to share right now? Yeah. Cool. So there's one that's, yeah, some sockets are way too expensive. I think this is something that we are focused on right now, and trying to get the right delta between sockets rewards and the return on investment or the impact that they're creating. So I think you should expect to see some more work going into that right now. Does the person who shared that, though, want to sort of speak up, or yeah, does anyone want to add anything to that point? Okay. That is, yeah, as I said, something that we're thinking about. I think we've got a little bit of time left, so we might just get through the next step quickly. Hopefully people are in Menti, so we can sort of do this question some justice. But we have been starting to try and talk about live action more on our DNA in the last little period of time, and I think it's a good time to check in and see how we're actually going against these things. I think some definitely better than others, but I'm really curious to get some feedback through this around actually how are we living up to our DNA right now. So for those that are plugged into Menti, it would be great if you could just tell us how we're going around transparency, adaptability, inclusivity, collaboration, and community. I need to check how many people we had in Menti. I think we had 3 or 4, so I'm hoping to see a few responses. We have probably spent more of our time talking about transparency and trying to action on that. I'm wondering if anyone has feedback around how they're feeling about how transparent PNF is being, or whether we are perhaps as open as we'd like to be in terms of sharing information. Is there any feedback or comments on that one specifically?
I think specifically around that, the last couple of months has really seen it begin to become like a default to open standard. I know the Pocket Scan grant kind of made people realize that that is something that should be the default, and I feel like it's gone pretty well since then in communication and just being open and clear about what's going on behind the scenes, because obviously that's the desired outcome from PNF is the transparency. So I feel like the last few months has made that get better, and I feel like it can only keep improving from now on.
Thank you. I think the example with Pocket Scan was a good one that probably highlighted to us the importance of people taking people on that journey. I think think for us, communicating it transparently as the decision had been made was the right thing to do. But unfortunately, it missed the other part of the equation, which was talking transparently around perhaps the reasons for us working towards that decision and taking more input into what that might look like up front. So yeah, great learning experience for us, and I think that's what we're trying to do. We're not expecting to be perfect. We're wanting to learn as we go along and improve, like I said, every single day if possible, which is why we're having this retrospective and giving people a chance to really be open with us around ways we can improve.
I think for an opportunity to include the last months in front of mind for people. Now's an opportunity to bring it up, or if there's anything else you want to discuss from that call. I'm wondering too, we do have these nice quiet spots in our calls. I'm wondering if having a private place to send thoughts or feedback might be valuable somewhere. So I'm going to think through if there's a spot where, a suggestion box, but something a little bit more modern maybe. All right. Well, we've got 1 more minute till the top of the hour, so we just hit that. If anybody has thoughts, please feel free to DM us, message anybody. Ben, thank you again for the workshop, for staying up. We will get kind of the findings from that and disseminate them next week. And I appreciate that a lot of the call was around transparency and communication, which is obviously something we can continue to do better. So feel free to let us know when we're not doing a good job. Thank you, everybody. Really appreciate your time.
Thanks, all.
Signing off.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Bye.